VP Racing is all about performance fuels, including SEF small engine fuel. It contains no ethanol, ensuring easier starts, worry-free long-term storage, and fewer repairs. Check out SEF, the perfect fuels for gas-powered tools.
All right, here from day one, the beginning of a very early start to an Olympus Rally. 2012, this is the last round of the Rally America Championship. My name is Matthew Johnson, and I'll be the one standing in front of the camera bringing you the action today. We've seen a couple cars come by. Here is Crazy Leo. He's up. As you can see, we've got a ton of dust. As a result, the organizer is using 3-minute windows for the top 5 cars and 2-minute windows for the rest of the field. The dust is a big consideration this weekend. About that, though, the top 5 guys, we had 5 cars in the seeded draw this weekend. The first option, I guess the person that drew first, was Pat Richard, and he picked first on the road. We've seen Pat come through here. The reason we didn't make it is because of, part of the fire danger and a lot of extra gates we had to drive through to get here. So the 2 cars that have been by that we haven't covered are Pat Richard and Ken Block. Leo was 3rd on the road. Next up, we'll see Antoine, and 5th of the top 5 cars will be David Higgins. I think Antoine and David Higgins were partially banking on the clearing of the cars in front of them to give them an advantage. Even if they did suffer from a little bit of dust, they'd have a cleaner road to drive on and be able to make up a bit of time there as a result. We're still going to learn how that goes. Some cars came to this first stage with their lights on. That is a bit of a risk because so much of this rally happens after tonight after it gets dark again. For those of you just tuning into the whole Olympus experience this year, because of the fire danger, we have had a lot of gates that are locked and highly restricted access to this property. As a result, also, we can't run cars in the middle of the day. So we're going to run up until 1 o'clock. The last car has to be completely out of the forest by 1 o'clock today. And then we're going to have a 6 or so hour break, and we'll fire things back up at the Ridge Motorsports Park where the service area is based. And that's when the evening set of stages will set off again. So half of the rally or so will be run at night this year. Your ability to get the lights aimed in a way that deals well with dust and fog will make a very big difference in this event, in my opinion. Here we are. Stage 1, I don't know what we call this one. It's about a 4-mile long stage. Here you can see it's on the side of a mountain. It's really hilly. Some of our stages this weekend are not so hilly as this one, and they're not quite as narrow. I think this stage has a few narrow bits in some of the wider sections. It definitely is a stage that's one of those that has started out with a lot of loose gravel on top that's getting swept away already as we see the cars come by. Of the 3 cars that have been by, Pat Richard was absolutely the wildest and did a bit of ditch cleaning out here on the outside edge on the corner exit. Just showing how Pat Richard was suffering from the loose gravel on top of the surface, going wide there. Here we've got Antoine Lestage up. Clearly there's no dust. I think Antoine's probably pushing about as hard as he can get away with. Right there, you could see he wanted to be on the throttle as early as possible, and as soon as he got there, the car moved another foot or so left and ended up in looser gravel. He kind of was on a line that was going to set him up for a Pat Richard-like exit near or in the ditch there, but he had to be easy on the throttle and just have some patience. And really, that's the trick to driving on really loose surface stages is patience. If you have to have your tires on the grip. If you drive on the loose rocks, you will be slow. And that's a constant battle on this kind of situation where you've really got to focus on not always getting to drive the line you want to be driving, but the one that stays on where the grip is and get your tires on that grip. About the grip this weekend, as long as you are on the grip, the embedded rock content here of these stages is really abrasive. So we're going to have a lot of interesting tire wear to talk about this weekend, among other things, hopefully. Like I said, there's a 3-minute gap here for the top 5 cars, and then the rest of the field's going to be on a 2-minute window. Next up will be David Higgins. David Higgins told us a little bit about his plans for the weekend. Obviously, he's already the 2012 National Rally Champion, so he's got a bit of rope, we could say. He's got some extra rope, we could say, to push harder and or maybe take a few more risks than he might normally be willing to take, and hang it all out there and see what he can pull out for the weekend.
Johnny, go stand over there for one. Like way back and zoom in. Not for Higgins. No. Yeah.
Part of our shooting plan was that we were going to bring you some of this coverage in a more time-sensitive live format, and we're still going to get it to you ASAP, but you might be watching it a couple hours actually after the shot. Still doing our best to bring you the Olympus Rally. The spectator points have been closed for this event. The only folks out here on stage are media, and we're going to do our best to bring you great coverage of the event. I gotta say, I love this weather. This is like super awesome rally weather. Being nice and cool like this. There's a bit more of a breeze than we expected, and the dust is blowing away quite well where we are standing. That's not to say in some of the downhill sections with trees on each side that the dust will be clearing there as well. It might be hanging in the air quite a bit. David Higgins. So I wish we could get a little bit of a window into the things going through David Higgins' head right now. One of those things, I believe, is he's noticing the tracks of the cars in front of him. What I saw there is he was easily able to make a mid-corner adjustment, and he was on the inside of the corner on the exit, right on the grip, right where he wants to be, super nice and clean, and he was on the power accelerating up the hill more aggressively than some of his competitors when they were able to come by. So he's looking at the tracks of everybody that's been by before him. He can see the tracks where they're going wide, and so he knows people are likely losing some time driving out in the loose and going wide on corner exits. So David knows right now to keep it clean and drive on the grip, and that's where his advantage is going to come from, even though he's driving in a bit of dust.
John,
Does he have his...
either go over in front of the truck or come up here. Come over this way.
Do you have a vest with you?
No, you have it.
It's up here.
All right.
I just grabbed all of them when we got out of the truck.
Got it. Start list. That'd be a good thing for me to find. Here it is. Because I know the top 5 cars on the road. I don't know the next order, actually. So now we're going to start seeing cars in 2-minute intervals. Not quite as much of a break for the dust to be blown away by some wind.
John.
And, oh, it's going to be Lachlan. So the interesting part about what you're about to see next, Lachlan O'Sullivan's coming by. He's been battling Raman Alagaman, Travis Hansen, David Sterricks all year, but Lachlan's been in a Mitsubishi Evo all year so far. For this event, it's the last event he needs to do well at to lock up the Super Production Championship for 2012. The car he's been driving all season is actually owned by George Plasek, and he's here driving. So Lachlan had to find a backup. And it's a Subaru owned by Raman Alagaman. I'd say what I saw there is Lachlan's making an effort to be pretty tidy, but finding himself in the loose quite a bit. Often with that car, Ramana said it was more oversteery, you know, like the back end of the car wanted to slide out a little more on some corner exits than he preferred often. It's interesting now that Lachlan's been doing battle with that same car he's driving now in the last 2 events. One of those he won over the Subaru and one that he didn't win at New England. If Lachlan does not finish the rally this weekend and David Sterricks does well, David and Karen in another, I think a 2011 Subaru WRX in Super Production, if they win or do very well in Super Production and Lachlan does not finish, they've got a chance to take away the Super Production Championship for 2012. So that's an interesting story about a championship still getting sorted out here at the last event of the season. And that's what you'd love to see, is a battle to go to the last rally of the calendar and find out who's going to pull it out for the win at that time. The other championship not yet decided here is the two-wheel drive one with Chris Duplessis in the lead. ACP is the only one mathematically that has a chance to take away the two-wheel drive championship. And we've got Will Orders here to mix things up and make it spicy. So I think we're going to see some spice off Will Orders rear tires here in a couple more cars. Next by is Adam Yeoman. Adam's car. We interviewed Adam really quickly in service this morning. He's upgraded his car significantly since New England. It's got more power. It's got 250 pounds less weight in it. They're under the minimum weight now, so they add a bit of ballast to get back up to minimum weight, and that means they can put that ballast where they want it. Looking for Adam Yeoman. Say Adam's line through there, and Adam's pass by us is the most conservative one we've seen this morning. In fact, the speed he came into the corner made me wonder if he had some kind of car trouble or something already. Could be. He's just taking it easy, trying to get a good start to the day, and like I said before, stay on the grip, not drive wild, and suffer the time consequence of driving in the loose gravel. Now that Adam Yeoman has gone by, next up we'll see Will Orders. Wow, Will really is up the field there, running 8th overall at the beginning of the event in a two-wheel drive car. That's pretty impressive, I'd say. So Will's going to come by and show us some flamboyant Aussie action, and then he's going to light up this hill and make a couple trenches up this hill as he also is lighting up some rear tires. That's one of the places we're going to stop in service and have a look at some of Will's rear tires from just one stage. So we are on 2-minute intervals now where we will stay. After Will comes Max Riddle. Max Riddle's in one of the cars prepared by Pat Richard up in Canada. Max is quite young, but he's won some sedan racing on tarmac, and he's done quite well at rally so far. Last time we saw Max Riddle was at Oregon here a few months ago. Max is coming by after Will, though. Again, this is Will Orders. Nissan Sylvia. I'd say he's conserving tires pretty well, right? I think it's impossible to conserve your rear tires in that car. It's 350 horsepower or so. And part of having the car handle correctly is that the rear tires are spinning and you're on the gas a lot. So it's kind of how it goes. So next up will be Max Riddle.
Yeah.
After him, we'll see Chris Duplessis.
Is it facing up into the turn?
Yeah, it works pretty good.
All right. Kaylee, move it. Can you move it like 15 feet up, right on the edge, looking back at the same corner apex? Like 10 feet up this way, like right in the side of the road. Sorry, we're doing a little directing here.
Yeah, we're just sorting out some GoPros and some other kit. So we got here this morning right after, as Pat Richard showed up. We just didn't have our kit set up yet. Part of the fire restrictions meant we had 3 gates to go through with a train of 5 to 6 cars and that sort of business. So the fire restrictions are putting everybody off base and off balance a little bit this weekend. Okay, next up, Max Riddle. He's in one of Pat Richard's cars. I don't know how much practice he has on loose gravel on this kind of stage. It'll be interesting to see how he comes by. I know he has quite a bit of experience on tarmac on racetracks, so we'll see if that carries over to being nice and tidy and clean here on some of the loose bits we see on this stage. This climbing uphill right-hander, you'll see the two-wheel drive cars suffering quite a bit more, really trying to manage wheel spin all the way up the hill here, where the all-wheel drive guys really their car. Accelerated quite quickly. This should be Max, but it's not. So on the list, that was going to be Max Riddle. Instead, we saw Chris Duplessis. I'm not sure if Max has had any trouble. The gap seemed about accurate for how much time went by between cars, so we'll find that out in service, or maybe we'll see Max come up next. One interesting thing I saw there is Chris made every bit of the use of one of the things his car is good at. His car is nice and lightweight. He can brake very late, and he can come super fast into corners. Obviously, being two-wheel drive and only 180 horsepower, he's not going to be leaving the corner terribly fast. For a tight one here, he drove the car really fast right up to the middle of the corner, tried to get it turned so he could get back on the power and put the power down there on the exit. It's always a struggle in a two-wheel drive, front-wheel drive car to get the steering wheel unwound and point the front tires straight as possible before getting fully on the throttle. If the tires are turned at all and you get back on the throttle a lot, the car understeers and just takes up more real estate and puts you off your line quite easily. Okay, if Max is not the next one up, it's going to be David Stericks in the other Subaru racing for the Super Production win this weekend. And then Rick Song, Evan Klein, and on down the order. Awesome, I'm stoked. I can't wait to see some of these stage times from Stage 1 come in and chat with a few people in service for a quick minute as we head out to Stage 4. Remind me, is Stage 4 the 20-miler? It is, okay. And how far? We're about 3 miles into this stage, right? All right, we're on Stage 1. We're about 3 miles into Stage 1. I thought more cars were going to have lights. I must admit, I thought more cars were going to have lights on this morning, as it has gotten a little bit easier to see out here than anticipated. We can see fog and clouds still hanging out in the valleys. The dust is blowing away pretty quickly in this turn where we're standing now. It's David. Really clean driving style there from David, and one of the things you see is he's got good discipline for braking in a straight line and then turning the wheel afterwards. What I could see there is he drove a very straight line up into the corner, and then as you could see, he was done with his braking. You could see the front tires make a sudden turn there. It's like he's like, I'm finished with my braking, it's time to turn. A lot of other drivers start messing with the steering wheel a lot sooner and sliding the car around and, you know, getting some kind of tendency towards oversteer before the apex of the corner. David using definitely some of his experience from tarmac racing as well. David's had quite a career already. He's raced a lot of different series. One of those was the Lister Jaguar in, I don't know, the late 90s or so. So David's been at this for a while. This is his second season really being active in the U.S. rally scene. Okay. So Max Riddle we have not seen. We're not sure why we haven't seen him, if he's had an off or a mechanical malfunction. Next should be Rick Song. Rick's driving the 2010 championship-winning Mitsubishi Evo of Antoine Lestage. He has a lot of experience in China. Rick is a Chinese driver. The stages over there in China are not built the same. Obviously, they're not built the same. The surface is different. It's a mix of rock and pavement in sections. The other thing that's different is that you can't trust what you see. Like everything we know about what a road should be in the U.S., you have to throw right out the window when you're going to drive stages in China. Your sight line's not always going to tell you what the road's really going to do. So understanding the character of the road that he can trust here in the U.S. has been a big learning experience in his events last year and this year here. Maybe it's just Pat Richard's cars that want to clean out that outside ditch. But so there was Max Riddle. He wasn't in the order where we'd expected him to be, but he has gone by. The car looks healthy and just fine. Again, a little struggle there on the exit of the corner, getting a bit too sideways as he got in the loose and helped clean out the ditch a bit. Luckily, in this ditch, there was no big rock hiding. We don't know that for the other ones laying around here. In this area of the woods, actually, there could be large trees and tree trunks lining the ditches as well. So you never really know what you're going to get if you're going to hang a tire down into the ditch. Hi.
Just a little bit. Yeah, you just move a little bit to the left so you're not in Matthew's shot there.
Oh.
My left or your left?
You're right.
You're right. Thank you.
How far?
You should probably. Okay. Well.
I'm sure that's plenty good. Thank you. Okay, I'm staring at a piece of paper, and what I'm seeing here, I just finished talking about Rick doing rallies in China and the difference of the roads there. Then Max Riddle came by out of the order that I was given, but it could have been something going on this morning where the drivers and co-drivers got together and chose to change the order themselves. Next up should be Rick Song in the 2010 National Championship winning Mitsubishi Evolution. It's yellow and chrome. It's a cool color scheme. That was great. You saw him have a moment of patience there on the corner exit that some drivers have not had. That one moment of waiting to hammer the throttle here at the corner exit made a big difference in how quickly he showed up at the next corner up the hill. If he'd tried to be wild man and really going for it, he would have been on the throttle earlier and big oversteer out in the ditch all the way up the hill. Instead, he kind of held back for a moment, got the car pointed, and then used the throttle. He used the power that car has and really put it down going up the hill. That looked great to me. Nice and efficient and super low risk as well. Okay, after Rick, Evan Klein should be up. He's another super production contender. Evan works for Exity Clutches. Exity is a sponsor of his as well. He's trying different clutch developments. He's made some different packages of clutch things to try out on his car this year. I haven't gotten to talk to him yet for this event to ask him if he's trying anything new this weekend. He's another one of our Michigan folks that have driven out for the event. There's a little bit of mist in the air. You feel that? It's like we might be getting a little bit of rain, and that would be a really interesting change to the schedule for one thing, since it's built for dust. Also be interesting to see if the dirt on these stages turns straight to mud, or if it can just soak up some water and just help keep the dust down. We've got to get a radio within earshot in one of these shoots when we can plan some things.
Well, when we get back to the RV, we'll grab one of the little hand hams.
Okay. Should be Evan Klein, and it sounds like Evan Klein. Evan's still picking his way around here, trying to figure out the best way to manage his car, his tires, and everything around the stage here. Looks like he's doing just fine. It appeared to me the car really changed direction quite suddenly there when he went to the throttle, and it didn't look like he was on the loose that much. So it could be a setup issue or suspension setting or something that might make that car a little bit easier to drive on corner exits. Like I said, it appeared to go from kind of cornering to just instantly popping into oversteer as soon as he was on the throttle. Often what you'll see with an active diff controller is if you've forgotten to turn the diff on, for one thing, or if your setting is a little bit, we could say, not aggressive. A very soft setting will have too much power in the rear tires, and it'll handle a lot like a rear-wheel drive car instead of a true all-wheel drive system. But that's usually up to driver preference, how they change the diff controller. He might not even have a diff controller in the car, and that might be another reason to see quite a bit of oversteer there on the exit. Okay, who's next? It's Vio. Vio and Carl Atkinson. They're going to be in an open class Impreza. This was a super production Impreza before, but now for some reason he's moved it back to open class spec. He's usually driving on the edges. Vio should be pretty interesting to watch come through here if my previous experience is any indicator. Again, with Vio there, I think we could see really well that bit of patience that really pays off here at the end of the corner. You could hear him, he had the car turning, sliding on the power, and then he did a big lift off the throttle for a moment, wait, and then went again, and he was able to drive up the hill a lot more straight and in the grippy areas instead of in the loose. Okay, George Plassek's up next. He's in the Mitsubishi Evo that Lachlan O'Sullivan's been driving all season. It'll be interesting to see how well George gets along here. George usually shows up and does 1 to 2 rallies a year. Sometimes they're California Rally Series events or other events around the Southwest. He lives down in the San Diego area. So George, I remember once in the Rim of the World rally, actually, where George and myself and a lot of us were running very, very low on fuel. And he needed a tow from us. And my fuel light was on, the needle was below E. Like a lot of us had made a fueling mistake for how much fuel we carried up to the Messenger Flats and Magic Mountain stages. So I wasn't able to give him a tow, but we're still buddies anyway. I can't say how many people that I've pulled in on tow ropes. A lot of us have had that experience. You're pulling in friends, but you're also pulling in sometimes people you don't know. In fact, that's how I met Pat Morrow back in 2003. Was I had a broken axle in a heavily damaged Volkswagen that wouldn't drive on its own anymore, and he towed me to the finish, and I was able to salvage a 3rd place finish there at Ojibwe Rally in 2003. Okay. George Plassek should be next. If it's not George Plassek next, it'll be ACP. ACP and what he likes to call the Angry Hamster, which I think is quite a fitting and appropriate name for that scion. No, it's going to be George. Did George run over your GoPro? Ha! Looked like he might. So
you can mess with that and change it to something different if you want. Like maybe right across from you, like get some rock spray on it.
Yeah, it's like people don't value GoPro cameras some of these days. It's like they just disrespect the camera. Even the owners of the cameras, they put them in all these crazy places. But the point of view footage of what it would be like to be laying down on the exit of a corner when a rally car comes by, you'll never know what that looks like unless we have GoPros. It's a pretty cool system and format. I'm also surprised and astonished at how good the footage is from them and how much we use it on our coverage. Okay, so ACP, Jeremy Wimpy in the Angry Hamster up next. It's a Scion XD front-wheel drive car. It's probably 260, 280 horsepower or so. It's a lot. It's as much horsepower as you can manage to put through 2 front tires. And I don't think at that point there's really no use in having more power. That's about all you're going to be able to put down on a slippery surface through 2 front tires. Your drivability goes down significantly when you keep trying to add power past that point. Maybe you could get away with 300 horsepower on some stages and some rallies that will work okay for you. But again, ACP is the only driver that could take away the 2-wheel drive championship from Chris Duplessis if Chris doesn't finish and ACP wins. So it'll be interesting. That's him. Man, that thing pulls like a tractor. Like he upshifted here right when he got to the steep part of the hill. I thought he was probably going to leave it in the same gear he's in. He went ahead and upshifted and it just like cranked along. That's what's interesting about a lot of the turbo cars is they make their power much lower in the RPM range than normally aspirated cars. So your Honda VTECs and other cars that are, you get the best out of them at 7,000 RPM and above, or 6,000 RPM and above, we could say. A turbo car is going to start being really efficient, making a lot of its power at 3,200 or 3,500 RPM. And by the time it's at 5,500 or 6,000, it's definitely time to shift if you want to keep that engine in its sweet spot making the most power. So ACP looked clean, quite clean through there. He slowed down plenty so that he could get the car turned and just go as straight as possible up this hill. That's what his game's got to be, to try to be able to put the power down. Okay, who do we see next?
Like 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It was 30.
Chris.
Mayor,
5.
Mayor, it was 30.
So in about 5 minutes, we're going to have to pick up all of our kit and all of our people and hightail it out of here. We're going to head to service, do some interviews there, and then get ourselves over to stage 4. It's the 20-miler, and that stage 4 of 20 miles before the midday break is going to really show us the way the rally's stacking up. Here we go. All right. Will Hudson's up next. I don't know Will personally, but we're going to see a little bit about his driving style as he comes by. He's in a 2002 WRX in open class. Good patience there. So he's in using the 5-speed WRX gearbox. And what we saw there was how long it takes for second gear to get into an area where the engine's making power enough to pull it. It took some patience on his side to not want to grab first gear here in this section. It's frustrating sometimes when you're climbing the hill and you know there's a lot of power there. You're just not quite at the right RPM for the car to really take off and go. So he just had to sit there with his foot flat in the floor and wait for second gearing to pick up enough so he could get some power put down. But he's running pretty far up the order. He's already 17th in the top 20 here at the beginning of the event. I'll have to keep an eye on him. I'm not sure if he's entered in the regional or the national, though, at this point. Okay, next will be Chris and Lori O'Driscoll. They're in a black Super Production Subaru as well. Maybe we'll have time to see Dylan come by and then Jet? Or are we going to have to roll before that?
How many is that?
Dylan is number 20.
Where
We've just passed car 17. It might be time to. What do you say?
I think we're probably gonna have to roll.
Okay.
We could maybe get everybody moving that direction and be the last ones out.
Okay. Have you told them that?
One more car.
So as I've said briefly, with the
Where's
fire
Barrett?
danger, huh?
Where's Barrett?
Bear Dash?
Yeah.
Not for a while. Chris O'Driscoll's next, then Mason Moyle, then Dylan, then Byron Garth, then Will Vanderpool, and then Lars Wolf.
Double tire.
Chris and Lori O'Driscoll, Super Production Subaru. They're using a 6-speed gearbox. It's raining. That qualifies as rain.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. That might help beat down some of this dust and keep the surface more moist and help things out. So we're going to wind up here from stage 1 at the Olympus Rally. What we're seeing is a bit of drizzle starting to fall here last second. Big concerns of today are the dust and other concerns of tire wear and such. Also, because of the fire danger, we have a huge break of 7 hours in the middle of the day today. We're going to join you next in the service area briefly after stage 1 here, and then we're going to stage 4 for this morning set of stages. I'm Matthew Johnson. Thanks for joining us.